Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Christiana Davidson. I'm a psychotherapist and a hypnotherapist, and I work particularly in the area of those trying to heal from childhood trauma, family dysfunction, and or narcissistic abuse or narcissistic family systems. And it's my great honour to do this work, and I think actually it's the type of work that has the opportunity for the greatest transformation and the most wonderful fruits from healing. Now, the topic today is a really important one. You know, I often get clients coming to me and, you know, that they have this natural desire to work out their part in things. And I know for myself that's also something, you know, I'm always thinking, yes, we can, you know, blame and look out there, but my instinct is, okay, but what can I do better? What can I do differently? And so that's what we're going to have a look at today as we explore the topic of facing your shadow. And many of you will know that that comes from the work of Carl Jung. Shadow work has been, you know, around for a long time, and many people have benefited from this exploration of the shadow self. And in my program, this forms a part of the latter end of the 11 weeks that I take clients through. And it's important, you know, that it is towards the latter end because, you know, first of all, we actually do need to call out and make others accountable for the impact that they've had on our lives. That is number one. So many children that grow up in narcissistic, dysfunctional families, they're groomed to believe that they are always the problem, and that if only they would change and see their shadow side, their dark side, then they would be lovable. So we need to completely throw that theory out the window because it's not true. And first of all, in my program, we call out, we see clearly the psychological damage that was done, the false identity that you were programmed to adopt as your authentic self, and it wasn't. So that's the first part, and then later on we're able to, once we've done all that, then we can bring it around and say, okay, well, let's now look at how we have, having grown up in that system, how are we perpetuating it? How, and this is the question that none of us wants to answer, how am I like my mother? How am I like my father? So in my course we take a really sobering look at that, but it's liberating to do it. So let's dive into the topic today. You know, in its essence, narcissism is about hiding the vulnerable self, hiding all vulnerability from others. And the way that narcissistic types do this is they flit between admiration and rejection. So the narcissistic type rejects their vulnerabilities, their vulnerable self, and they take on admirable traits that they see in others out there as their true self, and they create this false image that over time they come to adopt as their true self, but it's not. It's an imposter. Now the key word there is that they reject vulnerability. So that's why we can never really connect with these types, because they will not allow us in. And when I say that, they won't allow anyone to see their true self, because they believe that their true self is what causes them to be vulnerable to rejection. So there's no going there. What causes them to be lovable, they believe, is the false self, the kind of traits taken on that they've looked around and they've admired in others as their true self. Now, they will never wish to have their vulnerable or their vulnerabilities exposed in public, especially. Instead, what they do is they project out their vulnerable parts, the parts of themselves that they detest, onto others. And you'll see this in the family system, where one child is sort of the scapegoat, gets all the blame, is often the ill one, the one that the family just doesn't fit in, is always being criticised and blamed and demeaned. So that's on the one side. They project out their vulnerable side, the part they detest about themselves, and then they also project out the parts that they admire about themselves, or they wish to admire about themselves. So they surround themselves with people that will admire them, or they gain admiration by proxy as a result of being around people they admire. And so here we have the golden child. So it's all about the show of a perfect exterior, so that they will never be exposed as flawed or imperfect. Now, don't get me wrong here. We are all prone to this, even me. In fact, I had an experience of this this weekend. For many years I've struggled with pigmentation on my skin, and I didn't want anybody to see me without coverage on, because I felt it was shameful. I didn't want to be seen. It lowered my self-esteem, etc. And it was so much so that I wouldn't even go, I wouldn't put my head under the water if swimming with friends, for fear that my makeup would come off. Sharing very vulnerably here. So all of us have these sort of drives to keep ourselves from being rejected, to put on an image that will make us lovable, so we believe. And if we come from a narcissistic family background, look, we were told that image is everything. That's what we believe. So it's no surprise then that we do take on these types of narcissistic behaviours in ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is actually part of owning your shadow, saying, oh, how am I like my parent, and how can I be different? But you see, the narcissistic personality goes to the extreme with this, and there is a flat-out refusal to self-reflect. They just won't do that. Because if they begin to do that, it would be like a death. It would be the death of the false self, and then the vulnerable self would be exposed, and that's what they've been doing since infancy, to hide. So the narcissist is always hiding, has to hide behind a thick, thick, thick wall of false self. Just to complete the story about my own experience, so yesterday I feel like I broke through my narcissistic defence, and I did take the plunge, and I jumped into the sea with friends, and I didn't wear any foundation, and I also allowed people to see my flaws, and it was actually very sobering for me. And I'm very grateful to all those who have encouraged me to do this, and have supported me while I did it. But this is part of the healing work, for all of us. Now, you see, this doesn't mean that we can all sort of look at narcissistic types and go, oh, such bad people. What a bad person. How awful the narcissist is for being like that. Tut tut. No. This is the beauty of shadow work. In fact, narcissistic types mirror to us our own patterns of rejection and admiration in ourselves. So Carl Jung's shadow work is phenomenal for exploring this further, for exploring our own narcissistic traits. And I just thought today I'd give you a little task that you may use to begin exploring it yourself. Really simple, but so effective as well. So here we go. I suggest you write down a list of all those people that you reject, or you criticize, or you find you don't like, or you're kind of not wanting to be around, and then write down why. And then I would suggest that you take a look at all those people in your life that you admire and that you want to be around. And then write down what it is that you admire in them. Now you see, Jung would say that in both these cases, these are the parts of yourself. These people are parts of yourself, or the qualities that they express are parts of yourself that you have not integrated with. So those that you reject, or you criticize, or you despise, they're actually showing you parts of yourself that you cannot accept about yourself and that you're needing to keep out there. So something that might be helpful here is to sit down and just be honest about that. What is it that I'm really rejecting in them, and where am I rejecting myself for the same thing? And the same with the admiration part. Why am I desiring to be with this person so much? Or why am I having these strong yearnings even to be with this person? Sometimes it can be even infatuation. Why am I infatuated with this person? And often you will find that it's a part of yourself that you haven't been able to really allow yourself to be, but that you are really in your authenticness, in your true self. That is who you are. So you're actually trying to connect with you and love you in both the parts that you reject and in those parts that you admire. So whereas the narcissistic type will never look at either of those parts really of the authentic self, they will only look at out there. They don't go within, they only look out there. They either reject or they admire. But they won't look within and see the truth. But we have an opportunity here, all of us, narcissistic types included, to tentatively start just being more aware of what we're rejecting in others and what we are admiring, and then allowing ourselves to integrate with those parts, not to be afraid of them. And that in turn makes us able to love others. It really does. It kind of opens up a new way of being, really. Not so much one of trying to being better or competing, or we see ourselves in others, is what I'm trying to say. And at the end of the day, we're all looking for love and acceptance. Even the narcissist. a final little thought here. So the next time you find yourself criticising someone, you may find it helpful to say, at my lowest, I am just like them, or I have the potential to be just like them. And when you admire someone, you may wish to say, when I am at my most authentic or at my best, I am just like them. And this work is part of my program. We do look at the narcissistic traits that you've internalized. And like I say, it's towards the end of the program. And in my view, it's very, very important work. So I wish you can I say fun exploring your shadow, but I do find it fascinating, actually, just to be open to what you discover about yourself. And if you'd like to work with me, I'm going to leave my calendar link at the bottom of this video. And like I said, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe so that more people get to see this content, because I do think it could be helpful, you know, especially in our world at the moment where there's a lot of sort of blaming and, you know, the narcissist this and the narcissist that and, you know, they're this and that, you know. I think there might be a bit of a movement now to, yes, that's important, but there's also the personal accountability part as well. Thank you, everybody. I shall see you again very soon for another live. Take care. Bye now.